Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and welcome to the advertising series. Today we'll be covering Chapter 4, which is basically looking at the overview of advertising from the beginning, to give you a general idea from local types of advertising agencies to global types of agencies. So let's go into the chapter objectives. So just make sure you're either taking me an online class, a face-to-face class, and this is a supplemental review of what we covered, whether in the forums or in the lectures. So let's go into the objectives of this chapter. So what are you going to learn out of this chapter? Good question. Okay, we're going to identify, let's see, make this just a touch bigger, 150, I think I'll go 200. Okay, we're going to identify groups of advertising and their relationships, so different agencies, different companies, how they're set up, so you have a general idea. For some of you, this would be a good general information. For others, you may be looking as a career in advertising. Where do I start? What positions are available? I also do workshops and teach a human relation. So this will give you a good general idea. And even if you're going to be a manager and you'll be hiring someone, a different agency, so you understand the pros and cons of different types of agencies or different workforces or different advertisers that would come, and what's the costs and what's affordable, and get a general idea of their markup and some other just to understand how the industry as a whole operates. It operates a little differently from a local type of a setting environment to a global type of a setting. So, and a lot of advertisements will cover the whole spectrum, the larger ones. The smaller ones are very specific for what you utilize them in. Okay, so discuss how agencies get clients and make money. That's a big thing. And remember, even how agencies get clients and monies, so, you have to understand as a business owner, if you're taking this course as a business owner, how do I utilize advertising, same thing they're doing, to increase my customer base. Describe what advertisers do and detail organizational structure. You have to understand the structure of a company. And this is just general idea, because then I know if I understand how a company is laid out, I understand how I will be able to interface with that organization. If I'm a small company, it's a little intimidating to see a larger organization advertising come in to assist me if I could afford it. So, but on the other hand, I may be a smaller advertising organization, and I want to say, hey, I want to expand. What should I be doing? So this course will be utilized as a twofold for you to understand the agencies, and for other individuals that may be looking at advertising as a career option and open up their own small advertising agency. How do I bring individuals in? Explain what people do in an ad agency. It's just kind of nice, you know. A lot of times we just hire someone, or we had the main contact, or what they would consider in the chapters you've been reading, account managers. And what does he or she do? But they're just a focal point. They're the focus, or they're basically the face of the advertising organization that they're representing. Explain how media suppliers help. Remember, media, there's different types of media: print media, interactive media, the internet. So there's a lot of different functionalities. Will be the different media that you'd have to utilize. That's depending on your integrated marketing plan, which media do I utilize to effectively communicate to my customer base. Describe factors that affect agencies and client relationships. Remember, like anything else, all business, whether I'm a manager, I'm a supervisor, I'm an agent, or in this case, advertising agencies, how do I interact? It's very important that the individuals I understand my customer, my client that I'm representing or will be representing to come up. So I have to kind of get into his or her mind to understand what they're looking for. And sometimes they're not sure, so that's why they hire an advertising ad. They have an idea where they want to go, they just don't know how to take that from a conceptual state and move it forward. Okay, so let's look at advertising industry as a whole. Remember, you're following this whole thing. Will utilize my concept maps. These will replace any kind of PowerPoints and everything else. They, in one picture, one sheet, I could see the whole chapter, so it's easier so I could see how the components fit in. Okay, now the advertising industry is broken up into different sections. Like or not, organizations, how they're structured, that's what we're going to be talking about, and the people who are part of the advertising agencies. So you have advertisers, you have agencies, you have suppliers, and you have media. Okay? Now, agencies basically may have advertisers for the creative to create with some of the medias. Suppliers may work with the agencies to provide either help, assistance, and the media is another thing that it's the communication medium that I'm going to utilize to convey my message that I want to my customer base. Now, for those of you who are looking at advertising as a career option, most often employed by advertisers, not clients. So if I'm looking at clients, small businesses may bring someone else who has an advertising experience, but he or she is limited to the exposure they have. They don't have the resources or the creativity. Not saying that they're not creative, there's only one individual. When I go with an agency, and when you're looking at agencies, some agencies are very specific to different industries. I may be an advertising agency that just works with toys. I may be an advertising agency that works with maybe restaurant. So so you have to look at it. Even in the agencies, they are very specific to the demographics that is underutilized, so they could come in, especially if you're small. You want the real big accounts, fine, but you got to start out small. So if you start small and you come up with a creative ad and you work the word of mouth, and as you grow, you're bringing in more people. They just attract to you. Okay, you have artists. You have people who are artists. Taking or are writers or journalists. Is there a job for me? There's only so many English teachers. There's only so many art instructors, psychologists. Before you become famous, a lot of people will go into the advertising. They'll come up and they'll come up with creative ways. I have an idea. I have the words. I'm a writer. I know how to put the words in print. But just a few words in print will not convey the message. I need an artist that basically will. For other words, enhance it, show me a picture, give me a visual. And now the word, the visual, and then we get into photographer taking the still pictures that makes it look creative. And there's some ethics when you're looking at the photographers. How much touch up do they do? Is the person that I see in the picture, how is he or she actually looking? And you've seen there's more of a fallback that's staying in advertising. We want people to be I don't want to say the word natural, but to be honest or be themselves. So if I'm advertising and I want people to buy my product, I want to say I'm using this product, but there's no facial makeup, there's nothing else. This is what I look like. Your product actually works, and there's no touch-up. This is what you see is what you get. And that's the trend with you're looking at the culture going forward. And then you have musician. Everything else, remember, the more I could utilize all senses into the media, the better the person will recall the ad. Some people may not like music, but they sing to the jingle, and so the writer puts the jingle, someone puts the music in there, and then when they sing the jingle, they could see either the ad in their mind, or a lot of times I'll be driving and I already saw the ad and everything else. The jingle will stimulate. Oh yeah, that jingle. Now I see the ad, and all it comes in. So if I'm looking at all of these here, the photographers, the performers, everything else all here is to create the image. So when I do push it out in different medias, I've planted enough seeds, and I understand the different triggers to bring back the memory of the ad and the message I was trying to convey. That's what we're trying to do in this whole in advertising. Advertising is a communication arm of the integrated marketing campaign. Okay, so let's look at we're going to look at different local advertisers, and we're going to talk later on regional. But local advertisers direct to customers in the same geographic area. So if I'm a small, even larger ones, they'll break it up by geographic area. It makes sense because I understand the local clientele. How people purchase in Chicago may be a little different how they purchase in Austin, Texas, and there's still cities or in New York. So in New York, they say they're a little bit boisterous, or the New Yorkers, all right, they've got their own they're a little bit boisterous. That's New York. Chicago, we're a little bit more laid back. I grew up in Chicago, but we have a different style. So the advertising ad will have to kind of come in to work in with the culture, the geographic. So once I understand the culture, it's easy for me to, because I understand the customer base. I understand the audience I'm trying to target my ad to. So that makes it's an advantage. And sometimes I could take the local ad and maybe find another geographic area that has similarities, and that's where the research comes in. The similar demographics, maybe the age, education, cultural mix, whatever is in that demographic. So I could use the ad and just modify it. But when I go nationally, will that work? Because I look at the United States, we're very diverse. In certain areas, we do come up with our own type of a indirect culture, what they call the hidden culture. And so advertisers have to understand this, and they do this through research and through other media or different approaches of research, either through surveys or looking at different ads that worked or did not work. So you get to know what works in one area, what doesn't work in another. Look, if I'm running an ad here in Chicago, I may be a little bit, it's a little more risque. But if I'm doing it someplace where it's the communities, let's say a Mormon community or a very religious community, that ad may not work for that local area geographic. I have to tone it down a little. I still can have the same jingle, but the visual have to change a little bit because remember a picture is 1,000 words. Okay, and a typical structure exhibit is just vice president, sales, marketing, creative, artist, copy, production, media planner. Somebody has to plan to make sure they have the time. Marketing services, trade show. That's another way of presenting. Sales promotions. How to persuade the customers or the audience I'm trying to do to either look at my product or even give my product a consideration or even read some information about it. But I have to do the research on that. Okay. Now, so when I'm looking at the focus of local advertisers are basically point of purchase, volume, gross sales to bring up more. If I look at local advertisers, they would be considered more like retail advertising, very specific. Different tactics, different customers in local geographic area. End of the time, short-term ads. Local are very short-term ads. Just to get your attention. Here's the sale now because I have too much of an inventory or supply. I'm trying to move it out. How do I get people in there? Buy one, get one free, or do something to stimulate in the local, real short-term effect. Where a national is looking at strategic to sell the product sustainability over a long period of time. Not that local advertising or local customers don't want to sustain it, but they're timeline's a little different. They only have so much supplies, they got to get rid of it, or so much inventory, and then they want to bring on the next inventory. So they don't want to lose any money. They want to at least break even. And sometimes the ads, depending on where it's in the season, if it's the season is ending, I will have more of a clearance ads versus the season beginning. I could charge a little bit more. Say, hey, we now have Christmas stuff in the summertime, and that's what you're basically looking. You're looking at how much in advance should the ad come out, and that's we'll cover that in a little bit later on. Now, if I'm looking local, the resources are very less than $1 million and few generalists. So if I'm looking at the resources, what I'm looking at, I have a generalist that's supposed to do a lot of things that a large corporation may have it functionality or broken down by individuals that he or she's owning the planner, he or she's owning the producer, he or she's the photographer. Where in the local, he or she has to do everything. Okay? Now, type of advertising. So let's go into this one. Ads can be created locally using local experts, or ads can be created cooperatively. So if I'm looking at types of advertising, I'm looking at products. A lot of ads you see is basically sell a product. Here's a new toothpaste. Here's an improved toothpaste. Regular price or sales or clearance. So they're looking at product. And remember, I could always utilize this as a service also when I'm doing local advertising. In marketing, product and service, one's tangible, one's intangible. We talked about that in our last session. But, so product and services, I'll put that in next time. Okay, institutional creates a favorable image. So some of our local ads may be just to awareness, foster goodwill. So I'm just doing locally ads. If I am, and I think something like, let's say if I'm looking at when BBP had an oil spill. It hurt the economy and that thing. They did a lot of backpedaling, for lack of better words, but they started having local ads. We are concerned about the environment. We help so many people, even though it was just basically to increase awareness and foster goodwill. We messed up. What could I do now to improve? Or I may be a company that's doing something that is very positive in the community, and I want that image to come out because remember, if you have a good brand image, as we discussed in the last session or last chapter, is you could hire more people want to work for your company, more people want to buy your product. You get better advertising time. You have more of a collaborative advertising because people really want to. Because you got a good image. Okay, so some of the ads are institutional, just to create a image of an organization. And you see the Catholic Church doing some ads when the Catholics come home. Yes, we did all these things. We weren't very focused or very religious, for lack of better. I'm trying to find the right word, but so they had ads that were basically to bring the brand image, and and a lot of times. So remember, the whole thing of taking all these series to be able to look at ads and try to identify, is this a local ad or is this a regional ad? Most of the small business, everything will be doing more of a local ad, but then you're doing internationally. You may do something on the web, and you may want your ad that's a little more of a regional, for lack of better words. Okay. And then you have the last classified, recruit employees, offer services, sell merchandise. So these are the three basic types of advertising. They fit into these categories more for the local, smaller advertising agencies that basically cater to small businesses. Okay. Now, cooperative ads. When I look at cooperative ads, and I'll just show the two of them so you can look at them. You have vertical cooperative and horizontal. Manufacturer provides complete ad and shares the costs. National Brand Association professional quality ad. So if I have a vertical, the manufacturer, he or she, when I look at the manufacturing, they are selling to the small businesses, or they may be selling to somebody else other than the ultimate retailing customer. But they want to help the small businesses because that may be their market where most of their goods, is part of their distribution chain. So they're going to help the small businesses to promote their product by creating ads that are generic enough for that local area, and you may share the cost. They may pick up a larger cost, but you have to carry their product up front, or whatever the contractual agreement is. That's a foot in the door. It helps them because now they have a professional ad, and somebody else that does it, and their name's on there with the manufacturer's name. Okay, professional quality ad. Okay, now when I do the horizontal co-op, firms in the same business are part of a town advertise jointly, expand advertising budget. Look at the Chamber of Commerce. And I just use a lot of time. How do I bring more people or more businesses or more customers into a certain area? Or I looking at firms. I'm in a strip mall, and I got a new shopping center coming up. But I want people to say, hey, our strip mall, we're not a big mall. We're smaller. We're more friendlier. So all the businesses in that strip mall or in that shopping center put money in together so they could advertise. Woodfield does a lot of that. You had the brand, the corporation that owns Woodfield Mall, or Gurney Mills, and all of the all of the tenants in there, part of the rent or additional or one-time things, just to put their name out there, will utilize a cooperative ad. So once I get the individuals into the mall, they may come for a hot dog, they may come for shoes, dress, but if they're in the mall, most people will walk around in the mall. So or in the shopping center, they may see my other business. So we do a cooperative, what we call a horizontal co-op. Okay, now when we look at regional and nationalized, 10 advertisers in the U.S. exhibit. Okay, let me just try. These are the big ones, and when I look regional, they may be in the southern region or the Midwest region, but they also advertise regionally, and they take a national ad and fine tune it for the region. So they will have a national ad that is the big umbrella, and then they fine tune it for the smaller areas. And you see Procter and Gamble does that, Verizon, AT&T, General Motors, Walt Disney, Time Warner, and, a variety of them. In the book I had the supplications and material you've been using. It's an excellent read. This is probably one of the easier to read books. It's right to the point. It's very current, and it gives you a lot of information. Okay, regional is one or more states. National, several regions or the entire country. Now, when I look at the focus of a national, they're looking more at brand name. They want to make sure they get the brand name nationally. They're looking at grabbing in market share. Understand, to get market share, I have to do more to businesses and understand their clientele. They're thinking of strategies, focused. Their whole strategy is not short term. Is how do I improve the share? How do I get the name brand recognition? And Apple does a great job on that. So Samsung doing that. I'm just using those two because the author, when you're looking in the book, the reading had a lot of examples on that. Okay, and then different strategies. And then the next one you have is time, long-term campaigns. So if I'm looking nationally, it's not a one-time, clearance here to get rid of the. They're looking at developing a brand name over or a certain product or a certain image over a longer period of time. Now the resources, just guess what? The resources, they have 5 to 10 million and many specialists. So they have a lot of different ideas. But remember, one thing to manage when you're looking at, if you're in that field, or you're opening up, or you're dealing with individuals or agencies, or you are in agencies, you have a lot of creative individuals. Creative individuals are more one-on-one. So when you're bringing an agency, you want the creative individuals that be able to work together to come up with a creative idea. And some do better than those. Remember, part of getting the job in advertising is not only that I am creative, I have the education, I have the fundamental understanding, is that my creativity, I could utilize somebody else's. I'm not the best of everything else. I may make this part well, but somebody else could put the head on, and somebody else could do the other portions of the ad, for lack of better words. So they have a little bit more money, a little more resources, but you're paying for it. Okay, so now the next one you have is transnational advertising. So when I'm looking at transnational advertising, they're basically they're broken down into divisions. They're responsible for their own product line. They're nationally marketing and profits. Has an advertising department. Remember, they're more of a decentralized, for lack of better words, and coordinates sales and promotion across different brands. Now, the corporation advertise the corporate, so that's a division. Now, the corporate has its own advertising department and provides information and guidance to the division. But when you're looking at creativity and advertising, you try to keep as much as you can that's you could reutilize. Because if I'm looking at centralized, so I could control some of the ads, I could control some of the messages and some of the processes. But once I start giving some of the information back to the division, I want them, especially in advertising agencies, to have the flexibility to adjust to the customer's need in that culture, the smaller segment. But they have to understand, here's where the corporate brand comes in, and here's how it basically provides guidelines for the divisions and what they could do and what they can't do. Now, when we go into global strategy, and the biggest one, McDonald's, very good on global strategies. They're all over. They got different McDonald's in different parts of the country, but they're adjusting. Walmart's also very global, but in some markets didn't do too well because they try to bring in the Walmart brand, their model that worked well in a lot of countries, but then they went into, like, say, I think they had a little difficulty in German. In German markets, and for the lack of better words, because we buy by bulk or larger things in German because of the environment and everything else. Their shoppers will buy only for a week, or U.S. American shoppers may buy for a month or 2 weeks, or they may buy only for 2 days. So they have to adjust the brand, how customers came in, and what they expect. Walmart, everyone's smiling in German, and I'm not stereotyping, I'm just generalizing. German people don't smile as much. They say, they're more serious looking. So when I'm always smiling at them, they felt uncomfortable within that market. And so they didn't adjust to the culture. They try to bring in their brand. That's not how they buy. That's not how they shop. So that was a learning experience. So, Walmart in some areas said, maybe if we don't want to change our brand, because that's a centralized, this is a corporate, telling the divisions or the outlets that are out there, then maybe we shouldn't go into that market. And that's a strategic plan that they have to come up with. Okay, so let's look at some of the assumptions. Product use and needs are universal. Visa, smartphones, you need them everywhere. Certain things are universal. We try to standardize approach in all countries. MasterCard, Visa, that's why the word Visa means the same thing all over. McDonald's got the arches, so and they usually will. They may adjust the menu a little, but their main advertising, Ronald McDonald's, there. I don't know if Ronald McDonald's looking Chinese when he's in Asia or Indian. You can't really tell, but the accent would be there. So when they're talking in their language. The words and everything else would be in Chinese or French or whatever country that they're in. Okay, but we try to standardize the brand name. Everyone knows Ronald McDonald or Burger King. Burger King, the king didn't do too well. He was there for a while. He was a little kind of eerie. Remember a couple years ago they had the Burger King that'd be looking in the windows and, kind of freaking out people. It wasn't a friendly thing. It worked well. It got the attention of people thinking of Burger King coming up a little innovative, a little bit different. But after a while they dropped it because it didn't come up with a brand image. It just didn't work out well. People, it was cute for a while, but didn't last. We're going to look at Ronald McDonald. He has been through the whole thing. Pretty soon we should have a Mrs. Ronald McDonald, the way I look at it, but that could be something that could be in the future. Ronald McDonald got married. He was Mrs. McDonald, and now you have Ronald McDonald to cater more to the women and to the young ladies that is part of the audience. Extensive research. If I'm looking at global, they have to ensure that ad is basic and universal. When Visa picked up the name Visa, they tested all different markets that there wasn't anything with that name by pronunciation or something indirectly within the culture that may have a negative aspect. The color, everything was very selective when they came out with the color, when they came out with the basic advertising that they went, all they had to do is change the language, but what they call it, the jingles, the sound, everything else was the same across, the same message across different culture. And Coca-Cola is one that does that too. If you look at the Coke, they're always singing, always Coke makes things better, a happy world, everything else, no matter where you're at. So they're doing the global approach that you've been reading about, and appeals to basic human emotions and interests. Like it or not, we're all people. We're all trying to have a good time. We all like to laugh. We all like to have more time to do different things. So this works out well. Okay, now let's look at the role of ad agencies. When I'm hiring in ad agencies, now I'm going to go in here and I'll just use a figure because remember it's a little bit easier to see. And plus for advertising, it gives a little color into here, so I'm not always talking. So the ad agencies basically has to be independent. It has a business staff. It has a creative staff. So it's independent. When I'm saying independent, it's you could have internal within a company has their own advertising, but then sometimes you may want somebody else to bring in some new ideas. So a lot of ad agencies may also be your competitor may utilize the same ad. I don't know if that's good. Smaller ones you could get away with. Larger ones usually sometimes they may, but just that ethical issue. So they should be independent. The business staff, creative staff, contracts for media space and time. They basically help you write up the contracts, make sure that you get the right slot when we talk about frequency and exposure rate and which media or medium we're going to utilize, print, internet, interactive, or, billboards. So you're hiring them. It's almost like a wedding planner. Let's look at advertiser, ad as a wedding planner. I could probably do it myself, but it's so much easier to have him or her set it up and have everything else. I have the input in there, but they're coming up with those ideas. What do you think about this or that? That's why I hired them. And it has to be very client oriented. You have to listen to the customers. Communications in all fields, in marketing and advertising. What does my client want? If my client wants to target women, but you all of a sudden just want to target men, you're not listening to him or her. You're not going to be called back or anything else to just cut your contractual agreement. If he wants more women, and that's the reason I bring that in, because a lot of the advertising, because women have expanded in their purchasing power. women control most of the finances, and they're part of about 90%, 80% of the major decision to buy a major product. So I try to have the ads that also are not demeaning to women, that are not sexist in any way, but try to find a neutral. It'll still be risque, but not to the point where it's distasteful. And an understanding global markets. Okay, so that's covers this chapter. Now, different types of agencies. Okay, so let's go on this one. We're going to go real quick, and then when I look at the agencies, and let's look at this. Each agencies, when I'm looking at types of agencies, I'm looking at the reach, the range of services, and the specialty they do. The reach, local. What's my reach? Am I going to be a local agency? Is it a local agency? Is it regional? Is it a national? Is it an international? Or is it global? When I look at international, global means that every country tries to have a message. International, I could be just targeting the European Union, so I only have the members in the EU, and that'd be international. But I may not do it globally. I may not do the whole world, just a certain section. Nationally would be in the United States. I'm just going to go in the national area. Regional, part of the region of the United States, down south, up north, midwestern, and then locally is basically in that region. I'll have a smaller niche that I may be going to. Now, range of services. If I'm looking at, am I doing to consumers? And this is the only one. Those of you who had me in other classes, BTB is business to business. A lot of times it'd be written B in the letter two to business, so it's business to business. People just understand business to business, and you could look at it, the two businesses equal two. This is the first time I said BTB. It's just that this publication and the material we're utilizing puts it this way, and that's fine. So if I've always learned that business to business is B two to B2, that's a number two to B, but that's fine. But that's a different range of services. What I offer to the consumer is, how I advertise the consumer is a little different than how I advertise into business to business. I use more trade shows. I use more specific publications. Very direct to business. I understand the culture. I use more of a personalized salesperson, where so I give him or her some advertisements, or use the advertising to open up the doors. Where consumer is just a mass market, consumers change, but it depends. Different consumers have different likes, depending on the region or depending on the local. And then specialty advertising, boutiques, interactive, and media buyers. Okay, and this is what is covered on here. Now the other is agency people, and we talked a little bit about the agency individuals. But what consists of, not a small, when the reading you're looking at medium types of advertising, or they may look small on paper, but they're a viral type of an organization. So they're like a contractor. There's the hub. If I look at a wedding planner, or I want to look at even a business planner, event planner for businesses, they don't have all these different musicians, all this, because every customer wants a little different. They're the hub. They have the individuals, the administrative staff, they have the media buying and planning, they have account manager. And account manager is another word for salesperson. But if I come in as a salesperson, I'm peddling something. Account manager puts it to the next level. I am selling a product or service, but I understand the whole operation. I come in there and help you design, or I bring in the right people at the right time. Versus a salesperson just peddling goods. Once he sells, he's gone. Account manager wants to manage the account, and so next time you need an ad, they'll say, "Hey George, you did this last ad, and you work with these individuals going to be in the same team. Could you come back again? We're bringing somebody else in." So when I look at account manager, he or she is the contact of the ad agency, is the face of the ad agencies that they see. When you think of Harper College, this is the first, or a College of Lake County, or Northeastern, or let's see where my daughter-in-law goes, Loyola University. When you see their instructors, that's the face of that institution. So if I go to Burger King, Ronald McDonald's is the face. But so when I'm looking at account managers, they're not Ronald McDonald's, but they are the face of the organization. Account research and planning, you have to understand your customer base. You have to, whether it's look, if I'm selling to business, BT to be, I'll utilize that terminology, but it means the same thing. When I'm selling business to business, for me to come into a small business as an advertising ad, I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to sell this ad. I work for Motorola, I work for ComEd, I work whatever. I mean, I've already got all these different companies that I worked for. When I'm coming to that small business or even to a larger one, I have to understand their clientele as well as they understand their clientele. Because for a small business, he knows or she knows this is my area I'm in, and the advertising ad says, yes, I understand your customer base in this local geographic, this regional, or this national, wherever I'm selling. So and how do I understand that? I do research. And how do I tell my clientele? I did the research. Here's the demographics. Here's the breakdown. And I could verify this. I've got models that say, here's if we bring this product in and this pricing, you should have this kind of a return. Okay? And creative concepts. So remember, when I look at creative concept, computers up to today, they do the AutoCAD. They still don't have the creativity because it's programming. How do I get creativity? I bring people who have their creative, that can think off the things that will make that joke. There's somebody else that has a creative, that's out of the box thinker. And I have to have also that they know how to work within other creative individuals. Not only my way that works, but I could take your creativity. It's almost like a Picasso's or an artist taking somebody else's. When I look at an artist or an advertiser, you're influencing by what you see, what you think is creative. If I always see everything black and white, if I put some color into it, I'm like, oh man, George, you're creative. I never thought about adding color to it. But so when I'm looking at creative concept is all depending on people. You have to have those people that think out of the box. But now, you don't have all out of the box thinkers. You still have to have someone that brings the out of the box thinkers that are up in this other cloud and kind of anchors them down and brings them down to reality. So here's this customer. Good idea. How do we make it work for this client that he or she could afford and that we still could make a profit on? And then other services they provide. Okay? Now, agencies and compensation. How does this work? Okay, so you have media commissions, markups, and fees. Let's look at media commission. And this one works pretty good. The ad rate card price is $100,000. Okay, so that's what it's costing for a card. And the advertise agency buys the ad at 15% discount. So they only paid $85,000 for this ad at a discount. But they come up with it, created, and they bill the agency client full amount for the ad, $100,000. That's where they make their money on that. So they made on this one is $15,000. Yeah, it's easy, 15,000 just added. My math in there. I teach math once in a while. We call finite math. Agencies build a client. Okay, agency keeps $15,000 different. That's a nice media commission. Now markups. Agency buys materials for the campaign. Remember, you got a campaign. I'm doing everything for you. I don't have to hire. Sometimes you may just use add the creativity part. Remember, in an agency, here's what I want you to stress. I like to get the whole job. When I come in there, hire me. I'll do everything for you. Wedding planner. But some customers may not be able to afford that, or they say, I just can't come up with a creative idea. So I may just want you to utilize just the creativity. You come up with some kind of creativity, and I'll either Xerox, give me the print, I'll make my own copy, whatever. I'm trying to call it. So from an an agency says, no, you do the whole thing or nothing, basically bundle. My perspective, and I'm talking about when you're dealing with smaller business. Larger companies, that's the only way to work it. Because you take the ad all the way through because you got the responsibility, accountability, and you've got all the different triggers. So you should control that because you're talking big dollars. And a smaller one, if I'm a small agency and a small business wants to use a creative logo or come up with something or a jingle and they want to do it on their own, I don't have a problem with that. That's the way I look at it. I may charge them higher because I don't got the whole job. Remember, I'm a business person. I'm an agency. Don't turn them down because they may just want to see how you're working. If they trust you here, just like this, I don't want to buy the whole piece of pie. I just want to taste a little bit. That's kind of good. Let me try a little bit more. And that's how you're going to go in. So sometimes you want to at least get them in to try your ad. And once they feel comfortable, they know you're not going to take advantage of them. Or, because you don't know what other advertising agencies they dealt with before. And if you're not going to tell you, they may say, well, we don't trust ad agencies or whatever. So remember, be flexible enough that you could do different components of that. Okay? So I buy the materials again, and then agency bills for the materials a plus. This is how much it's going to cost me, $85,000, and I get it as a deal. My call. Now, do I do it? Do I paid for it, or what I could sell it? That's a different issue when you take me for accounting. Let's say the cost me $85,000. So now I got it for $85,000 pure cost. That's my best bottom line. I turn around and I'll have a markup of 17%, and this one 18%. So then the customer pays me not only for when I looked at this one for the commission, they also pay me for the cost, which is $100,000 plus that. That's how well, that's not fair. Look when you buy a part at the auto shop, and if you go directly from the manufacturer, or sometimes when you go on eBay, on Amazon or Google trying to do a Google Pay, that's they're doing a lot of advertising. That's one to track through now. But if I'm looking at when they come up there, you're going to pay their cost for that. There's no way around it. You're going to pay the additional cost. You know that they're handling the cost through the distribution chain. They're handling it, and now they're going to sell it to you. There has to be some kind of markup. And what is that markup? 17% is pretty good on the material because they're buying it, and you may not like it, the ad, but they could utilize it. Okay, so that's not too bad. Okay, now what kind of fees? Fees for commission? That's not bad. I do it, and I get a commission straight fee retainer. That you pay me a flat fee and any additional. So if you ever need to bounce ideas, I'm there. And then a retainer. I hit them both at the same time. Sorry, I know what I did. Let me just get rid of that. I'm gonna repeat myself. Okay, are we good? Okay. Now agencies in-house. Now if I'm looking, and let's look at this. It has all this thing pros and cons. I'll turn these off so you can focus on that. In-house agencies. I'm a small company. I may have in-house. Even larger companies have in-house agencies. Marketing or advertising. As a ComEd had their own advertising in-house. They had their own marketing. Well, what happens is their in-house is just that they come up with a conceptual idea that works, and now when they're bringing in contractors or other ad agencies, they have someone that speaks the same language as advertisers. They understand the creativity. They could communicate to them in a little different than if I would be a financer, an accountant, or a manager. How would I come up to? I'm looking at what are the numbers. I don't have a creative. So these individuals in-house are just like a centerpiece. They're like the whole culture wrapped up inside. But smaller businesses may only have that agencies and never utilize outside. So it saves you money. It allows tighter control because I control these my employees. May allow greater attention to the brand because I'm very focused with the brand. The cons: lower creative quality, less experience and talent. Not to say that they're not talented, but remember, after a while, I've only done so much. If I have other people, they've had the same. We've been in this. We've got the same degree, same exposure. But you worked at a different company. I worked at different companies. A lot of times, I'll teach at different colleges, and each college, even though they're similar, to transform information and to help you take skill sets that's sustainable and will help you get the next job. But they have a different approaches. I'm more flexible that way. I never thought about this. So I learned from here, and now I come in with a new way of doing it. So remember, and it's loss of objectivity, because after a while, when you look at groupthink, a smaller company, we feed on each other, and we start thinking like each other. One way, we become one mind. Okay. Now, client relationship. When I like it at this, any ad, small or large, you have, how are you going to be sustainable? How are you going to get new clients? Through your old clients, through them recommending you, through them, somebody said, hey, that's a good ad. What advertise? Man, that's the company. Man, that's the best ad I've seen in a long time. Look at that jingle. Look at the print. Look at the quality. Look at how it all came together at the right time. and just all of a sudden their sales went up. That's who I want. But how do I get them? Sometimes I could go out there cold turkey, for lack of a better word, cold calls, trying to find them out. I advertise out there to businesses. Hey, hire this guy. When you look at when you look at the reading, there's certain agencies that are well known within the industry, and they don't have trouble finding new clients because they come to them. But if I'm a smaller agency, I find them through the use of my current clientele. Consultants, so how do they, when they first start off, they advertise, but after a while, they get other people that say, hey, that's a nice one. I have a help with it. Hey, utilize my consultant, utilize Dr. George, or utilize this consultant, or this company, small, or utilize this advertising. They work with small business. They work with the shoe industry. They work with for lack of better words, the shirt industry or whatever industry they work at. They work with boutiques. So now I say, hey, they understand different boutiques. They understand the clientele. They understand how to get non-boutique individuals into my boutique, for lack of better words. Okay. So finding new customers you have to do by presentations. And if you're taking, I always try to have you do a write-up. I always try to do a brief PowerPoint. I utilize the concept maps, and this is just one way of presenting to you. So you can see solicitation, referrals is number one, community relationship. I'm involved in the community. I had the Boy Scouts come in there, put the Boy Scouts sign up, or the Girl Scouts, or the church, or the mosque, or whatever, the synagogue, whatever I'm in that area. You know what I mean? Some areas may not have any churches, but they may have synagogues, for lack of a better word. Or they may not have any churches in there. They may have certain, like the VFW, or certain type of clubs or industries in there. So, but I try to get involved with the community anyway, within the community. And I do a lot of networking. And networking is passing my card out. Every time I meet someone, I'm in a meeting. Here's my card. And that's the only way you're going to get new customers. You got to find them. And then, plus, advertising should be advertising. Because if you can't find new customers in your ad agencies, you got issues. Because if you can't find any customers for yourself, how the heck are you going to find customers for me as a client? Okay, client relationship. Okay, now if I look at all this, you got pre-relationship development. Let's just look at the picture. How does it start? Pre-relationship, we get to know each other. We start building a relationship, developing. Now, when I get to know each other, when I first come out, I have a general idea. I don't know how risque I should do, how creative you want. You may be a very conservative type of organization. I have to find that out after dealing with the account manager we talked earlier, and other people coming in there, and we talk to individuals, we look at the shop, we get a good flavor. If we already understand the industry, because that's our industry specialty, that's our niche, as an ad agency, it's easy for me to say, hey, look, we understand how you're thinking, we understand your customer base, and now we could help you. And then we develop the ad, and we develop that market, so they come back, in a relationship. We develop them trusting us. We develop so they don't go to our competitors, or they look someplace else. And now I have them, I'm doing with them. One thing people forget, they forget the maintenance. Once I'm in there and I've developed them, everything else, I don't have to maintain them. I have to come in there and say, hey, is this something else? Hey, look what we're doing. Hey, I've got an idea for you. I have to keep in contact. It's almost like a marriage. I meet them. Hey, we're real shy. We're developing a relationship. We develop. We know our ins and outs. And then after a while, I just take him or her for granted. Remember, never take him or her for granted. Even though they may not have an ad now, I still come in there. Hey, what's going on? They're on nothing. I still maintain it. It's a lot less expensive to maintain them instead of coming in here. It's very costly. Once I understand them, then I know what they want, what they like. But down the road, it works a two-way street. The organization may be growing, and I can't accommodate them. I may outsource, but I can't accommodate them. Or they want to go more of a risque type, real challenging, or maybe a little offensive, not too much. But my agency says we don't like to do offensive. We're very more of a family type of an agency, or I may be a risque. So you may want to terminate. Once the company wants to go this way, or my client base wants to go this way, I'm going to say I don't want to do it. Same thing as a consultant. I don't have to take every consultant job. It's nice, but if I come in there and a person says, I want to cheat a little bit here, I don't want to deal with that individual, or I want to do something that may be against my ethical values or my morals. I won't deal with them. It's just, hey, I understand this, but I don't think I'm the right person because I'm not for that type of a product. I don't really believe in your in in what you're selling or what you're, let's like adult bookstore. I'm just throwing that in. I'm not trying to be perverted here. I'm going from one extreme to the other. I will not take, advertise. How do you advertise? Different way of advertising, but I may not want to do something like that, or a magazine that may be discriminatory of someone, or maybe racist to one way. Not 100%, but or uh, but on that cuff that's they're just bordering that what do you call it, that line, but getting a lawsuit. I say no, it's time for us to terminate. And same thing with the client. You're a good agency. I want to go here. I want to creative. And you see a lot of large companies, they get so far and they get the same jingle, but they want some new blood. They want a new ad. So they're going to go into this stage. And that's basically what the three stages we'll talk about. Okay, now, okay, and then client relationship. Okay, the four C's, and I'm going to go with this one. The four C's, I like the picture on here. When I look at four C's, and just remember, when I tie relationships, I tie relationships the same way you're going to build and maintain a relationship with your own friends and your network, or your friends and families, or if your marriage, or your relationship with two individuals. It has to have chemistry. You and me got to connect. A lot of times when I would meet with a client, if we don't connect, I say, maybe somebody else. Or when you're taking me online or you're taking me in a face-to-face class, you try to connect with those students right away. I got to be with him or her for 16 weeks, 8 weeks, or 6 weeks, whatever the course. Is there any kind of chemistry? Okay, so just some kind of connection between me and you that I got to work with you, so I want to have that chemistry. The communication has to be clear. Even though you may be at this level talking all this, frequency and exposure rate. What the heck is that to the client? So I have to be able to communicate at a higher level and also bring it down and simplify it depending on my audience that I'm trying to present my ad to. So if I'm presenting an ad, I present it. My communication has to be able to adjust to the accountant. It has to be able to adjust to the manufacturer. It has to be able, you know what I mean? And I have to have good communication skills and able to listen. And that's the biggest thing in communication skills. And I always find myself, I interrupt a lot of individuals. Yes, I do. And I'm working on that. But that's very rude to interrupt because I don't understand. I think I already know the answer. And a lot of times I'm about 80% sure exactly before they said exactly what I want. But it looks like I'm overconfident. It looks like I don't respect the individual. Let him or her talk. So you have to work on that communication. So when you're being hired, you could be the best creative individual, but if you can't communicate that idea, here's how the picture is going to look. Remember, because I'm just doing a proto model. Oh, I see what you want. You want this to shine or come out. Which part do you want to be a focus on? And I have to be able to communicate not only at a high level, but in a simplistic level, depending on my audience. And then conduct, I have to conduct myself properly, for lack of better words, be professional, ethical, and I have to be flexible enough for any kind of changes. Because the client says, well, I want this, and I worked all this weekend, especially small, here it is. I don't know, I thought about it. I don't think I like that. Could you change this? And I want, sometimes you want to go in your mind, you want to, I'm going to choke the person. You don't say that in your mind, something like goodness. Okay, we'll redo it. You know what I mean? But that's when you have to do it. After you've done a small agency, look, we're going to give you 2 or 3 ads. We'll redo 1 or 2. But after that, you have to pay additional because it'll be like, look at it this way if I'm a realtor. They're going to show you houses. They find out about the chemistry, the communication, what you want, and changes and kind of. And also, you want to just be driven around 50 days over and over, and you're not buying anything. You just want to be looking around, talking. Well, it's kind of nice. You're like a sightseer. After a while, you're going to say, hey, we'll take you to so many homes. We'll show you only so many within a month or something else. We'll show you so many ads. So remember, that's for the contract, and how do I communicate that to the individual? But it's the same thing for any kind of relationship. We have to be able to adjust to changes, and the chemistry has to be there. So the 4 C's. Okay, what do we have here? Now we have suppliers. Okay, now if I look at suppliers, as an ad agency, since you look at the material costs, I try to always make sure I get the quality material. Don't try to skimp on it. If he wants, or the business or the customer wants a glossy, I try to find a array of suppliers locally, because I could probably try to help them within there, probably get a better deal because I'm not buying by large quantity. But if I'm a larger organization, I will have supplier 1, A, B, and C. I do not put all my eggs in one basket. I may have 60% in one and two other suppliers out there in case this one cannot deliver. The other ones will pick up the thing. At least I get 20% of the product to kind of hold it off or move forward, so I could work with it, so I'm not stuck with one. Okay, uh, printers and related specialists. I have to have an array of them. And again, I'm going to look at a wedding planner. For lack of better words, or like an advertising. I got a Polish wedding. Okay, so I get a Polish man in there. I get a Polish baker and knows how to bake it authentic, or different catering. So I have to be able to be flexible. Film and video houses where I could record or have them do it for me. And research companies. I can't do it all by myself. It's a lot easier when I was doing for my dissertation. I needed all this information. I just listed help a research company. Here's the data I'm looking for. Give me something current within the last 5 years, and they would come up with. The reference librarian would do the same thing. Sometimes you could have him or her help them, even if you have them as when they're not working, because they just know they're just so used to all the different databases. I just want this, and they will give me maybe 500 databases out of a million, narrowed down specifically to what I'm looking for. I still have to make the decision. I still have to read them. I still have to be able to incorporate them. But instead of me shuffling through all this paper, I hire someone else that's their expertise in that area, and they'll do it for me. Okay, so the research companies are very important. Now, when I look at media, and we're going to be talking about media a little bit, but let's talk about print, because that's one that's out there. Print, like even though there's different electronic with the smartphone and everything else, at the smartphone, if my connection is gone, what I do, I look around. A print, I could put it in there as a smart. At nighttime when I'm charging, I could read. So do not forget about the print. Prints are laying around. You don't have to have a certain thing. You don't have to find me and this big. Remember, my computer, my smartphone, I'm charging now. When I take it on here, lots of information in here, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of apps. But when it's laying there, no one sees it. A print, I could hand it out. They don't have to have an app. They don't have to be in my site, but they could see it. That still is a very vital. And if I look at a print and look at this one, I think this one came out of your book, which is, again, Ronald McDonald. Here he is, it's at the Ronald McDonald House. What I mean? So he's always there helping kids. That's the media. That's the brand image. Ronald McDonald comes out there and in the print. Look what Ronald McDonald. You don't have to see McDonald's logo like on this one. I could just see Ronald. He's got same thing with Target. When you see Target with the bullseye, I could see the bullseye. You could have that dog with the bullseye right there. You already know it's a Target ad. So in the print media, I could do a lot of stuff out there that catches people's attention. This is still. I'm not telling you to get rid of the electronic, digital, social, any of that. Okay. Now here's McDonald's honors Islamic observant. Here it is, the moon here, and they real subtle, and they went so they weren't offensive, and all you had the McDonald's fries in here. And if you look at it here, it's real, very subtle, because they don't want to commercialize a certain religious event. Okay, like Christmas commercial, like you got Santa Claus, everything else. Certain religions aren't that commercial; they're more subtle, for lack of a better. That doesn't mean it won't change down in the future. As more advertising gets in, as more people see different media, as more exposure. I'm not saying, but right now, and it depends on the market. If I'm doing a working Islamic observant in the United States, may not be as rigid as it is, or as it is, traditional, for lack of better words, as it would be in the Middle East or something. And it's the same thing with if I'm looking at the Jewish religion on that. There's conservatives, they're moderates, and then they're Americanized or the new age Jewish Jewish for lack of better words, religion. You know, I mean, a little more flexible, lot more open than different. But depends on the market what is acceptable. You have to be very sensitive. That's where research and surveys to make sure, is this going to offend somebody? How do I know? Is it offensive? I still want to advertise. You understand that because it brings customers in, brings awareness, and brings diversity, especially in the United States, of the different cultures that we address everyone, not one over the other. But I have to be sensitive to that culture that I'm working with. Okay? And then you have the electronic, you have the digital interactive that we're talking, you have the social. Out of home means, when they talk out of home, is when I'm looking at billboards, I'm looking at train station, I'm looking at bus stops, I'm looking at signs. People put signs on telephone poles. And here's the whole thing when you're looking at out of everything out of home. When I talk to clients or potential, when I'm driving my car, a lot of times I don't see any of the signs at all. Never. I'm driving my car. I'm paying attention. I'm listening to my radio. Whatever. I'm looking at GPS. I'm not texting. I'm doing none of that. This is because you don't want to get in an accident. I'm very focused. When I'm stuck in traffic, boy, I never knew that billboard was there. I never thought about that because I'm being impatient. I'm trying to calm myself down, or I'm waiting for a bus stop. I'm waiting. I'm in a train, or you know what I mean. So they're out of home. When I'm and out of home could be if you look at the baseball games or in the Wrigley Fields or the Sox stadium. When I'm looking at the out of home, when you come in and they got different companies that are sponsoring or different companies out there. So any kind of print that's out of the home that I could see it without using a device is available to me. And there's a lot of others. You got mailing. You have the book listed a lot of them. These are the large ones that you have to look at. Okay, and then social media is number one. That's the biggest one. But everyone doesn't look at social media. LinkedIn, I utilize that a lot. But what happens a lot of times I don't check it all the time. It's every now and then. But it's still there's some media. I went in and I was looking at some MapQuest. I was looking at MapQuest. I was on somebody else, and all of a sudden it was free, but it wasn't really free. They had this logo right in the wrong spot where I wanted to see where the address was. I couldn't move it. I turned it off, and I remember the company name. Not mentioned in here. I won't buy from them. That upsets the heck out of me. So now what happens if I start getting ads? For that I can't utilize because it's giving me it's noise. I basically will find another. I won't utilize MapQuest for. I can't remember if MapQuest or Google Map or whatever. I won't utilize that one because hey man, I'm tired of that. I want to get something else. I want to get something. I understand you had to add. That's why I'm watching it for free. Nothing isn't free in business. But move it over where I have to look at. I got to see it anyway. Put it in that same area. Don't cover it. That's to me. It's. I was trying to spend more time trying to how to close to get rid of it, and actually it should have took me 2 seconds. It just frustrated me. I chose that from my own personal experience. And this personal experience, that's where research comes out. What are we doing that's offensive? What are we doing, communicating? Because I want to communicate back. If I put the ads out there and because they look at noise or it's offensive and they're not watching, I've lost the communication. You can't buy nothing if you don't see it. If I can't persuade you to do it if you're not even looking at that. Remember? So you have to be careful. Ad agencies are and smaller ones are very sensitive to the customers. As they get larger, they try to be sensitive, but they get a little large. They kind of expand a little bit, where they forget about the small niche, and they know all, for lack of better words. Okay. All right. So that's that in a nutshell. Let me just make this smaller again. I just make it like this. Okay, in a nutshell, we covered everything else about from local to global, the pros and cons. And a lot of companies, I missed a little bit about centralized and decentralized. And when you had for intro to business, when you look at centralized, the ad is more for the global type of market or for certain regions because I can control it. Decentralized, again, depends on the structure. I'm more flexible and I could adjust the ads just to that culture or to that demographics or the customer base that's very small, and I get the flexibility. But I still have to have a centralized organization for a large one. That is, for lack of better words, the spine, the core, and everyone else knows they got some flexibility, but they've got parameters, how far they could go and how far they can't go acceptable. You've got cooperative ads, small ads. If you look at a lot of people think I'm a drinker, or in bars you have Miller or you have Pepsi Cola. They do a lot of cooperative ads. Taco Bell, even though they're a franchise, they have the large national ones. And when they do the campaign nationally, they bring in a new product after they have all the franchisees agreeing to it because they have that equipment and everything else. They could specialize it to the local audience, types of advertising. So cooperative one is the way to go because you split the share. You have more, or a lot of businesses, like I mentioned, in the shopping center will work as a cooperative. Do not forget the cooperative. The cooperative also, when you are as an ad agency and you get to work with different people, different businesses, what have you done? You expanded your network. Instead of just one, I'm just doing a boutique, I'm doing a boutique auto, a wine, what do you call it, a fitness centers, all in that thing. So now I expanded. So now I've got the broad, large, for lack of better words, my message, but I've touched all these other individuals. After the message works, is successful, they may call me. You got something just for me, tying into that integrated marketing campaign that will be focusing. Remember, you're going to be coming up. Those of you taking me for in a college level, you're going to be coming up with some kind of a marketing campaign or an advertising campaign specifically for an industry or a business or product that you've created, similar to what you do as part of a business plan. When are you doing just the advertising section? All right, so my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and this is advertising series, and we've covered section 4 or chapter 4 is the scope of advertising, all the way from local advertising all the way to global, just to give you a general idea. Different advertising, different structures, different ways they communicate, the resources that are available, the pros and cons. Would I do it myself, or do I outsource, or do I do a combination? So that's what this chapter is about. Again, and I'll see you in our next series coming up very shortly. Thank you again. Bye.